give a warm welcome to the hosts of The Bride of Alternate Ending.
Bleh, bleh. Hello, ghouls and goblins, and welcome to Bride of Alternate Ending, the horror sideshow of the Alternate Ending podcast. I am your ghost, Brennan Klein, reporting live from a world run by vampires. And with me, as always, is your co-ghost, Tim Brayton. How are you doing tonight, Tim?
I am well, Brennan.
What are you drinking tonight?
I am not drinking wine.
Okay, you're committing to the Bella almost too hard, I think. We are gathered here today to discuss.
I just want to stop and point out you cannot commit too hard to Bella, but
I think you're right.
But we'll move on. We'll ignore your apostasy for this moment.
Okay, and you cannot commit harder than Bella himself.
Also true. You can certainly commit harder than Ethan Hawke.
Well, that's why we are here today. We are pulling skeletons out of the closets of Oscar nominees. Although by the time you hear this episode, he will either be an Oscar winner of the year or an Oscar loser, because he already has one, right?
Yeah, does he? Did he? I don't think he does.
Oh, okay, well...
We should have looked that up,
Yeah.
But you can continue introducing, and I will try to track down that piece of information about Mr. Hawke.
No, I have it. He's nominated for 5, and he has won 0 so far.
Okay.
So, yes, what I'm saying is that by the time you hear this episode, the Oscars will have happened, but we are not... we're recording it beforehand. We've been digging skeletons out of the Oscar winners' nominees closets. Last month we did Kate Hudson in The Skeleton Key, and this time we're doing Ethan Hawke in Daybreakers. Actually, you know what? The movie he's nominated for this year is Blue Moon, and that might actually be a better title for this movie than Daybreakers.
Yes.
But yes, Daybreakers is a movie directed by the Spierig brothers.
Spierigs, Michael and Peter.
Yes, maybe not the best brother filmmakers that are out there. I would hazard a guess. But yes, it is set in a world where vampires are the kind of dominant species on the planet Earth, and they run the world. They are politics. They are business. They are everything. And humanity is a second class. They are refugees. They are farm animals.
You could say that mankind is an endangered species.
Ooh.
But then you're cross-contaminating with a different franchise.
Yeah, well, this one never made it to even becoming a franchise, which is...
Well, to be fair, neither did Battlefield Earth, so...
Oh, well, you're right. Anyway, so Ethan Hawke plays a guy who is the chief hematologist for a vampire company called Bromley Marks, which is very funny to me.
It's very... not vampire-y in a way that I think is probably appropriate, because if it was called something like punny and vampire-y, it would be... If the whole movie was operating in that mode, it would just be too much. It's very, like, generic big pharma, but it's big pharma for vampires. So what do they care about? Why they care about blood.
But yeah, it's kind of like... So this comes out the year after Twilight, and I'm not certain it gets made if Twilight wasn't a hit. I don't know exactly the production timeline.
I feel like it comes out in the wake of both Twilight and Underworld in a way that it is impossible to imagine it without both of them.
Yeah, and also True Blood is the same year as Twilight.
Oh, sure.
So, I mean, True Blood, the show, and that's based on books, and those had come out before that. Because to me, I was looking at this, and I was like, okay, so this is True Blood if the blood substitute never worked. Because True Blood is like that kind of like, we're doing Twilight, but for adults. And again, that's probably a bad comparison in terms of the timeline of when the books happened. I don't care. But it's like we are more exploring, like, in that show, vampires are second class. I viewed it as a metaphor for, and by it, I mean the one episode of True Blood that I've seen, which was the pilot. But I viewed it as a metaphor for homosexuality and how people were treating gay people in the 2000s. But I'm sure there are a lot of race metaphors and a lot of other things mixed in there. And here it is very much like a vampire movie of the 99% kind of.
Yeah, it is as unambiguously about class and capitalism as a movie could possibly be.
Oh yeah, it really is.
Like, if they were to adopt Marx's Capital, I don't know that it would be as on the nose as this movie about how the vampires run the pharmaceutical companies to suck the blood out of you.
Yeah. But I think it makes a mistake by going so hard on the world building of vampires and having this be the metaphor, because they're also like, so humans are the subjugated class, but also the poorer vampires are the subjugated class.
We should probably continue talking about the plot summary before we start to get any more tangled up than the movie has already made us.
You're right, but the movie is like, it's a lot of world building, but also a lot of it is just happening in expository news announcements.
Yes.
But I feel like it's more world building than it is plot, even though it doesn't really have either.
Well, because here's the thing, and I'll just go ahead and tip my hand right now at the start. It is a world that deserves a significantly better movie than the one that's in it.
Yes, and I think a movie that has considered the world more thoroughly, perhaps.
Yes, than its actual meat and potatoes drama.
Yes, but yes. Okay, so Ethan Hawke is the chief hematologist for this company that is selling blood, trying to develop a blood substitute because there is an... vampires have been the dominant species for 10 years. It is the far-flung future of 2019.
Which is 10 years after the movie came out.
Yeah, woof.
Makes you think.
It really does. But yeah, so... there is a blood shortage. Basically, vampires are going to die off within 3 months, essentially, or at least the poorest vampires. And there's a thing where vampires in this world, they kind of turn into Nosferatu.
I was going to say, they turn into Max Shreks. They subside, is the technobabble used in the movie.
Yes, they are called subsiders, which is, I think, meant to be kind of even a double or triple entendre of some kind.
Right, because there's also like they are the underclass, so the side of society. If you
and they also they are subsistent, like they are trying to
subsist,
drink the last remaining dregs of what is left of blood, whatever.
Because they are what happens in part when a vampire starves, but also in part when a vampire feeds off of other vampires, or when a vampire feeds off of itself. Which is a plot development that felt like it should get a lot more of like a horrifying beat than the movie allots it. But
yes,
okay,
yeah, they're doing a lot. They're shoving a lot into this movie. Anyway, yeah. So Ethan Hawke, he has, I think, never drunk from a human. He was turned against his will by his hot brother, whose name is Frankie. And Frankie's like a kind of mindless soldier guy in the American Vampire Army ? I don't know.
Is he an army vampire, or is he like a private mercenary in the employ of Bromley Mark's vampire?
That is a great question, because when he first showed up, I assumed he was working for the army, but I don't think that's ever like...
Or is it one of those things where like the creation of blood and the distribution of blood is so central to this society that the blood company has become the de facto government?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. I was kind of thinking it was like 1980s The Apple, where Boogalow's record company also kind of runs America.
Yeah. It's like that, except in that it is not fun to watch.
Yes, exactly. Way fewer musical numbers, too. But, yeah, so he has never drunk from a human. He's trying to develop a blood substitute for this evil corporate entity run by Sam Neill. But basically I don't know, we do a lot of world building shit. He ends up meeting this woman who's running like this human refugee camp. He either hits their car or they hit his car,
and it turns out to be a car full of human resistance/refugees. And because he is already human sympathetic, he helps them hide from the vampire cops. And then they kind of seek him out again, seeing him as potentially a useful contact inside the blood company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the part of this contact is the lady gives him this note that is a map to where their meeting place is, and it seems like it was drawn by a child. I don't understand why.
Yeah, no, it is very like, is it meant to be hard to parse for the evil vampires because no one could look at this and understand that it is a map in the first place.
It's pretty embarrassing. But anyway, so he goes to meet them. One of the people that is part of their number is Willem Dafoe is a character named Elvis.
Yes.
A former vampire mechanic who accidentally cured his vampirism through a convoluted series of misadventures.
Basically by microdosing sunlight before falling into a lake.
Yeah. That's
Basically,
exactly what happened.
Basically is not what happens in the flashback, but that is basically what it is.
Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense, but who gives a shit?
Certainly
so it's
not
kind of,
the Spearing brothers.
No. So yeah, it's kind of like, okay, Ethan Hawke, he's like, I'm going to help these humans. I'm going to try to cure vampirism. Meanwhile, Sam Neill, the vampire capitalist, does not want this to happen. And it's kind of sending out this paramilitary force to track down the humans, and then they have some conflicts, and that's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Daybreakers. So have you seen this movie before?
I saw this movie in theaters in 2010, and here's the telling fact. Back in 2010, I was reviewing absolutely every movie I got my grubby paws on. Like, I just did that. There isn't a review of Daybreakers on alternateending.com. There is actually, if I'm not mistaken, a review of every other Spearing Brothers feature film, because somehow I just keep seeing their stuff, even though I don't know that I enjoy any of their films. I'm going to remind myself here. Yeah, they did
Jigsaw, which I actually thought was
Jigsaw,
okay.
which is okay. Oh, Predestination is a solid movie. Not coincidentally, their only film that is not in any way a horror movie. I might add, it's just sci-fi.
Oh.
But then their most recent film to date, although they do have something in post-production, was Helen Mirren in the Winchester Mystery House movie.
That was terrible.
That was just beyond any form of redemption that a movie can have.
Yeah, no, just a complete mistake, because it's such a good idea for a movie, or at least doing something with the Winchester Mystery House.
The Winchester Mystery House is a great thing, and it
Yes.
should have a great movie associated with it, and instead it has a dreadful movie associated with it.
Yeah, just embarrassing top to bottom, which makes me sad, because the movie that they're in post on is Fall 2. It's the sequel to the Girls Up on the High TV Tower thing from 2022.
Which I hadn't seen and forgot existed, and then I saw that they were doing the sequel, and I was like, oh, so apparently that movie did have some level of cultural purchase. I guess I should go rewatch it, or go watch it.
Yeah, it did have some cultural purchase. I think it did significantly better on streaming than it did in theaters, but was
that
so
a
cheap.
pandemic movie, or was that like late pandemic?
It was
late
like
enough that it
2022, but
Okay.
the pandemic was still kind of hurting things.
People were still not sure if they were seeing movies in theaters at that point.
Yeah, early 2022 was the Delta variant, so like we were having a tough time. But I saw Fall in theaters, and it's a junky survival thriller, but I had such a good time.
Okay.
I do recommend checking out that first Fall. And like the climbing situation of them getting up to the top of the tower. If you are in any way afraid of heights, it will rattle your bones. I sweat through my shirt watching that movie. It was 100 degrees outside, but it did. The movie did 30 to 60% of that.
Okay.
Anyway, but yeah, so it's kind of a bummer to me that they're doing Fall 2. But anyway, they also made Daybreakers. So you did see it.
I saw it, and I recall at the time that it was a sort of buzzy film. Like, people were really excited about the concept. Because it felt like I liked it a lot less than other people did.
Okay.
And I don't believe, like, as I look at the Letterboxd averages, I feel like people have cooled on it, is what I was seeing.
I think that's possible. Although I think it's also kind of being rediscovered too, because a lot of the reviews I was looking at were like, "This is underrated," or like, "Oh, this looks cool and is a hell of a lot of fun." And I don't know what movie they were watching, but they put that review under the Daybreakers title.
You see, and I think it gets back to the concept is a really good concept. Like, vampirism is a plague, and the vampires won, and now humans are like cattle, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
All of this is good, it was not translated into a good movie.
Yeah. No, you're right. I think it is good. It's interesting because that concept, it's not a horror movie. And this movie is largely not a horror movie.
It's largely not a horror movie. Yeah, it has a few horror scenes for sure.
But we're doing it anyway.
Yes.
And this was actually, I feel like this was a little bit before we were really into dystopias too. When
was the big dystopia boom?
Well,
because there's been dystopia films on and off since the 70s, but there definitely was like a 2010s dystopia thing for sure.
I feel like it must have been the Hunger Games.
That feels right.
I don't know. I might be forgetting something. But anyway, so yeah, I'd never seen this. I really didn't know much about it other than that it was called Daybreakers. And honestly, I think half of what I knew about it was I was mixing up with Night Watch or Day Watch, or there's those two movies. So I really had no idea what I was getting into going into it. And, you know, I'd seen the synopsis and I was like, okay, that's interesting. I was not prepared for the sheer 2009-ness of this movie. As I kind of joked about earlier, this is one of the bluer movies.
That's what I was saying when it's like it's impossible to imagine this movie without Twilight and without Underworld. Underworld less because of the plot specifically than because of the cinematography. This is a Control-C version of Underworld's cinematography. Slate blue, real shiny, grain's been punched up a little bit. It is a blue movie. It
is outrageously blue, and I think that they're partially doing this other than just copying the things that Twilight and Underworld were doing, but so because when they have the scattered daytime scenes that they can really pump up the orange.
Sure.
But it's like the teal and orange thing only works if they're in the same frame or in the same scene. Like if they're in different scenes, it's like the never the twain shall meet of it all is really strange and really ugly. But yeah, honestly, okay, so I'm getting married 2 weeks after this recording. This movie might be my something blue that I bring to the wedding. It was outrageous. It felt like I was wearing like just blue glasses, and I was struggling to discern objects in the frame because everything is so shiny and blue.
I mean, I was born in this, so to speak. Like you came to the blue films. I grew up in the blue films. But so like it brought me back mentally to when the 2000s were happening and when I was seeing movies like this in theaters, you know, every couple of weeks. So like I knew how to watch it, but I agree that it was not a pleasant thing to do. Because it is hard on your eyes. There's just so little. It's not that there's no contrast, because it's also really contrasty in terms of lighting, but like it's such a swamp of that really particular shade of steely blue that like your eye doesn't have anywhere to go because there's just not enough to trigger a thing for your eye to land on.
Yeah, and it's kind of doubly steely blue also because they're doing this like nighttime blue thing, but they're also doing this like kind of vaguely futuristic urban environment blue thing, and those are kind of overlapping with each other. Anyway, so it's fucking blue. That's really all I can think about with this movie. But anyway, so revisiting it, were you nervous to have to watch this again? Were you curious if you'd change your tune about it?
I was curious if I would like it a little bit more, if only because of nostalgia. Like there's still movies from this period were shot on film, so there is a kind of grunginess to the imagery even when it's this cleaned up and shiny. So I have a lot of nostalgia for films of this era that I didn't have when I was watching them, because at least it's sort of like, well, at least they're not what they're making now. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll warm up to it a little bit. I did not. I think I didn't review it in 2010 because it came out in the States in the spring of 2010, if I recall correctly. My memory was that I would have been at a 2.5 then, and I am certainly or a 5 out of 10 because that's the number system I was using then. I'm at the same number now. So.
Well, I'm sorry we have wasted your time.
No, it's never a waste of time to recalibrate and make sure that the thing you thought was bad, because sometimes you're wrong.
That's true. But yeah, so
But I'm curious because to build on that, you said you hadn't seen this before, and some of the movies that I saw a billion years ago and then you and I watched together are movies that you've been like wondering about forever and ever. Is this a movie that like sparked something in you when it was new when you were a young child, or is this just a movie that
I cannot say that I was aware of Daybreakers at all. So if it's coming out in 2010, I would have been in high school. So I would have been like going out to see movies like as an independent human being at that point. Like I did see Twilight in the theater in 2008 with some friends. I don't know, I was probably watching Inception and making jokes about Marion Cotillard or whatever.
Okay, because Twilight was for you because you were a high school student. My recollection is that Daybreakers was being kind of positioned as a serious vampire movie for adults.
Yeah, it's possible.
I think the degree to which it just is deep up its own ass about being an anti-capitalist message movie is part of that, frankly.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, it's kind of self-consciously adult. And so maybe that's why it didn't enter my sphere. I mean, it was at an age where I wasn't really a cinephile. I was just kind of watching whatever was big that people were watching.
Well, it wasn't big.
What?
It wasn't big.
No, certainly not. And that's why I missed it, I guess. But yeah, and I hadn't quite discovered new horror movies yet. Like my horror journey really began in earnest in like 2011. When I saw the trailer for Scream 4, and I was like, what is going on with this ghost-faced gentleman? And I watched all the Scream movies, and then I watched all the movies that were referenced in the Scream movies, and things really got rolling.
And then you got to 2023, and here we are. Because that's how it would have taken to watch all the movies referenced. I'm making up.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm still not totally done. But it was a great summer. The same summer I started reading your blog. But anyway.
It was a great summer. You're welcome.
For sure. But yeah, I wasn't quite there yet. Like I did like some horror movies. Like I saw The Sixth Sense. I saw The Exorcist. I liked those movies, but I hadn't quite realized that this was kind of a thing that I was going to be doing for forever. So yeah, no, I really had no impression of what this was, how it existed in the landscape, and it kind of sort of broke even. It didn't really have a big splash.
So really, it entered your radar as, hey, that movie Ethan Hawke was in that we could do for our Oscars tie-in.
Kind of. I think I was aware of Daybreakers, and I'd kind of lumped it in with Night Watch of like, okay, 2000s era vampire movies that I'm not that curious about.
And that's fair. Yeah, Night Watch is much more of a direct Matrix ripoff, I would say.
Ooh, okay, that's interesting. And actually, I was thinking about the Matrix a little bit, at least in a anytime we get a shot of the humans that are all kind of lined up to get the blood drained out of them, that's very Matrix.
Oh, I mean, the Matrix set a template for how to do like dystopian future sci-fi city that I think didn't start burning itself out until like the early teens. So for sure, there's Matrix in the DNA of this film.
But yeah, anyway, so this is the first time watch for me, and I was curious about what it was going to be, and I was ultimately kind of disappointed. It's a lot blander than it really should be. I think there are a lot of avenues that they could have explored with this world that they just kind of don't. And there are other things where I was like, oh, okay, let's learn a little bit about this world. We're driving through the neighborhood. There's like an alert, like there's kind of like an air raid siren or like a tornado warning that's like an hour till sunrise, and I was like, oh, that's neat. And then he was driving through this neighborhood, and it's like, ooh, futuristic houses, and maybe I just don't care about vampires plus the future. Like maybe it's just another spice that didn't need to be there. But I was like, oh, that's kind of ugly. And then I was kind of just like, okay, why do they all have windows? And they don't have like Purge-style shutters that close the windows when the sun rises. And I just kind of got thrown out of it in a lot of ways. But I do like the nighttime or the daytime driving technology that they have for the cars, where all the windows are blacked out and you can see the outside on these little view screens.
Yeah, I like that. I did probably like some of the kind of flourishes around the edges a bit more than it sounds like you did, because I do like world building. I was curious about like how do we create this vampire centric world, and it also does something, since we're talking about things we kind of like a little bit more. A lot of the exposition takes place in the form of a montage of like environmental storytelling, basically during the opening credits, where we see like newspaper headlines and like billboards and subways and things like that. And you just kind of get a sense of how this one particular vampire bat created this plague and et cetera, et cetera. And it's very 2000s. Like, I feel like that's how a lot of movies from around this period were doing their exposition, was in a kind of like Children of Men I Am Legend Shaun of the Dead sort of like, you have to kind of be looking at like news bulletins on the background of screens and such to see exactly what's going on. And I enjoy that. So like I like the way that it kind of hastens us to learn what's going on without having Sam Neill sit Ethan Hawke down to say, remember the time 10 years ago when we all got bitten by that vampire bat? And like, I mean, that also kind of happens anyway, not quite that directly. But I liked the exposition. I like the way that it kind of cues us into the world. And again, I'm rooting for this world. Like, that's kind of why I think I get so mad at Daybreakers, is because I am rooting for this world, and this movie squanders it completely. But I also like the touches, like you talk about, the driving. And there is actually one shot where you see, like, steel shutters rolling down prior to dawn. So at least some of the houses do have Purge
I missed
style.
that. I was looking for it, but I couldn't.
I mean,
see it in the
you're looking at navy blue against black in a image that has been tinted navy blue, so like it's not helping you to see the imagery.
No, not so much. But that said, so I do like that introductory, like there's basically like 8 or 9 minutes that are basically completely dialogue free.
Yeah.
The story that it's telling is very much in just looking around at the world, and sure, like the newspaper headline of it all is a little unsubtle.
It's also an effect that I don't know if it bothered me in 2010, but looking at it in 2026 is like, oh, they just straight up photoshopped that onto the image. That looks very fake.
Yeah. But there's a lot of stuff like the way that they're setting up the story. They have this kind of vignette at the beginning of this young girl vampire who ends up destroying herself by sitting outside and waiting for the sun to rise. That I think is kind of a poignant sequence that tells you a lot about the world without. It's elliptical, but it tells you everything you need to know, really. And I thought that was all quite elegant in at least sweeping us up in the history of this place, where we are, when we are. Kind of what the vibe is, before they really kind of sink their teeth into it, so to speak. Or like when we see Ethan Hawke driving around for a bit, and he's like seeing all these vampires huddled under a bridge, and there's just this kid smoking and giving him the evil eye. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's got a lot of those sorts of things, and this is, I think, also part of where it feels like a movie that's kind of self-consciously for adults. It has a lot of like sad driving scenes and sad sitting around in office scenes, and it's like very clear how they get Ethan Hawke and Sam Neill and people to like sign up for this project is to be like, no, it's a psychological drama about what it would be like to live in a vampire world. And the sad thing is that they're right, it is that, and it shouldn't be that. It should be like a rollicking, gory thriller. with some psychological elements that are done better than they're done here, maybe.
Yeah, and there's some decent gore when it crops up. Like, this is a surprisingly brutal movie in certain ways. And especially in this, there is a subsider attack. Like, one of them breaks into Ethan Hawke's home, and they must defend themselves. And it's incredibly gory and actually reasonably well executed. Even, like, it feels a little digitally iffy, but it actually looks quite good.
It's actually probably my favorite scene in the film, because it is, on the one hand, it is the only time that the film like seriously embraces being horror.
Yes.
I also just like the design of the subsiders, and we don't really get a good look at one outside of that scene.
Oh yeah, there's that great moment where it's licking blood off the wall, and it's got these wings with kind of claws on the end of them, and it's kind of scraping the wall in its desperation to get closer to the blood. That's really neat. And there's the part where it's like hanging upside down when they're battling it. I would say there are scenes that there's no extended scene that ever reaches that level, but there are scenes later on where like Sam Neill is kind of draining the blood out of the human leader of the resistance, and she's kind of, I don't even know if she's tied up but she's like sitting in this office chair and blood is draining from her wrist.
I think she's tied up. I think that's the straps on her wrists, yeah.
Okay. But like the blood is kind of dripping down the sides of the chair, and there are these moments that are a bit brutal and a bit gory and a bit horror-y that are peppered around the movie.
Yeah, and I guess I'd say, I mean, obviously I'm a gorehound, but like I don't need the movie to just be constant geysers of blood. Like that's not what I'm saying, because the movie is what it is. I think what it really is more symptomatic of, it's a movie that isn't really about vampires. It's about sad people who can't go out in the sun. And it's about how humans have to prey on other humans in a symbolic way, because boo, capitalism. But it's not about vampires.
No.
And I want it to be about vampires.
Yeah. No, there just needs to be a little bit more there. And I don't know. I don't feel like we ever get a really strong sense of what kind of, like, because any new vampire story is going to have to set up, okay, which parts of vampire lore are true in this universe and which parts aren't. Because there's no, vampires aren't real. There's no consistent idea of what actually is there. Like these vampires can cross running water. But I feel like they never really decided on some of the things about what makes them a vampire here. And especially like it's interesting. Like there's a lot of interesting elements of this world. Like they are drinking coffee, they are drinking alcohol that's like mixed with blood, so they can at least ingest beverages. I don't know about
It very much seems like who you are before you became a vampire is who you are after you become a vampire, only now you drink blood and go out at night. And
yeah,
like
pretty
those
much.
are the differences in your life. Otherwise you do what you did.
Yeah, which is actually not uninteresting.
It's not uninteresting, but then they don't do anything with it.
No, they don't. But we see, I think, certainly within the vampire city, we see about 3 places. We see
We spend a lot of time in the pharmaceutical company's headquarters.
Yeah, which is not a place to be when you're building a world. You need to be in the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, we see that. We see the subway station with the coffee shop in it, which is how we learn about what the proletariat is up to. And then we see Ethan Hawke's house, where he never locks the back door. Everyone's just walking in and causing mayhem. I think people walk into his house unexpectedly 3 times in this movie. His brother, the human lady, and the subsider.
That sounds correct. Those are the numbers that I would come up with as well. Yeah.
And that's embarrassing. It's within 15 minutes of each other in the movie's runtime too. Anyway, yeah, it's just it's a little boring. It kind of gets a pep in its step whenever Willem Dafoe shows up, which is true of many movies.
So Willem Dafoe and Sam Neill are the 2 people in this movie who I think are doing anything at all.
Yes.
Sam Neill is mostly just having a good time being a character who doesn't have any shades of like white. Like he's just a bad guy doing bad things, and I think he's enjoying that. Actors get a kick for just being able to go out and chew the scenery, so he's doing that. Dafoe is actually playing a character.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, Sam Neill is kind of doing that imported character actor thing where he's just like imbuing it with the level of gravity that comes with the skill that he has, but also just having fun. But Willem Dafoe is really like doing a lot.
Yeah, Willem Dafoe is the only person who is actually giving me any sense of what goes on in your head emotionally when you are a person who's been through these processes.
Oh, yeah. Because, I mean, we're here to talk about Ethan Hawke, so we should probably talk about Ethan Hawke. I didn't dislike him, but I think he as an actor was already he was long established as someone who's a bit above this material. And I don't think he's really trying. I think he's coasting a bit in this movie.
I do want to say, though, since you already mentioned one Ethan Hawke movie that would have had a better title for this film than Daybreakers in his Oscar nominee, Blue Moon, I would also like to point out that Before Sunrise would be a much better title for this movie as well.
Oh, it really would be. Oh, my God. And Daybreakers is not a terrible title for Before Sunrise either.
Frankly, Daybreakers isn't a terrible title for a vampire movie. It's just not a good title for this vampire movie. Daybreakers needs to be a title for a movie about vampires who can actually go out in the sun.
Ooh, that's kind of what I thought it was going to be, actually, if I thought anything.
See, it's been long enough that I saw it that I thought part of what he was doing was trying to create like a sun cure, which is not, obviously. I mean, insofar as trying to cure vampirism is that, but that's not like what he's doing.
Yeah, he's not.
I think there's another vampire movie where that happens, because every vampire movie idea has been done.
Oh, yes.
But no, Hawke is fine.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's in a mode that is a little bit easy for him to access, or he's just like soulful and kind of feels bad about how he's moving through life.
Mm-hmm.
But he's just not really doing anything about that. It's a very slacker-y performance in a film that doesn't seem to benefit from that, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just, his character is depressed. He's been struggling for like 10 years with being a vampire when he doesn't want to be. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit Interview with the Vampire. Now that I'm thinking about it. It's a little
bit Interview with a Vampire. I hadn't thought of that either, but that is kind of what's going on here, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's such a fucking boring character to do.
Right, because like he is the least active character of importance in this story. He's
very much
primarily shuttling the other more important characters around so they can like interact with each other.
Yeah, and I get thank you for doing this, I guess. Also, I was real quick. I was looking through Ethan Hawke's IMDb, and he has several other things that are better titles for this movie. Including, he was in that Pedro Almodovar short film, Strange Way of Life.
Okay.
He's also in Moon Knight, the Marvel show. Like, these are all better.
Okay.
Anyway, Valerian in the City of 1,000 Planets is not as good.
That would be a tough title for this particular movie. But.
It would be. But yeah, no, he is just kind of, this character is sleepwalking through his life. Mm-hmm. And that's a totally fine thing for a movie to do. There are great movies where that's the case, but it's just not that interesting in this kind of dystopian action horror adventure.
Yeah, and like what I wanted it to be his performance from Gattaca, which is sharing a lot of this film's DNA in terms of like kind of loner, loser, sad guy in a dystopian future world who's involved in like the technology that runs the world. But in that movie, I feel his anguish at living in that world, and I just don't feel that in this performance. Like, he just kind of feels like any office worker who knows that his life's not really going well, and maybe he should go vegan, but he doesn't really want to. And like, that's who this character is. Again, that's why I say it doesn't feel like a vampire to me. It just feels like a guy in a Gen X movie about white-collar workers who are sad.
And he just is. Like, I think there's a shot that I liked quite a bit, but that belongs in that movie where he is looking out at the humans in the Matrix style kind of carrying case. And he does not have a reflection in the window. But you do see his clothes, and his empty clothes line up perfectly in between two of the humans that are tied up, or that are locked into this machine chamber thing. And I was like, "Ooh, you thought of some visual metaphors here."
That was a good shot.
It was a good shot, but it is a shot that belongs in that movie, which this movie is for a time. And
this movie supposes itself to be that movie. Like, that's the thing. It feels like the kind of movie where they knew what they wanted to make, and they assumed they had made it because they knew that's what they wanted it to be, but they didn't actually do so. So it keeps, like, indicating it being that sort of movie without ever actually getting there.
Yeah, which is a bummer, because the kind of dystopian humans versus vampires thing, it never really comes alive. It just fails so often.
Yeah, no, like, it's embarrassed to be a genre film. It's not really trying to be a horror film, and it kind of keeps not wanting to be a thriller film. And like the thing you just described would make it a thriller, right? Like a sort of action-y. Who's like, are the humans going to escape with the whatever MacGuffin? And it's just not that. Like, the humans are not characters.
No, they're not. And I was shocked. So the characters that are in the car with the rebel leader lady, they seem like they have a story that needs to be told, and they're going to come back, and they just never do.
They just don't. Only she does.
Yeah, which shocked me. I thought they were going to be like our way in to the rebel group.
Well, you expect there to be some sort of like he meets the human resistance, like a sort of Children of Men type thing. And I mean, insofar as Elvis is part of that, he does. But like that, then it becomes like a story about a vampire and an ex-vampire, and not about the human resistance.
Yeah, because the human resistance, they get shuttled off somewhere else real quick, and then Willem Dafoe and Ethan Hawke just start trying to cure vampirism. This movie gets easily distracted, I think. by things that just aren't that interesting. I mean, honestly, we talked about this with 28 Years Later. I am desperately disinterested in a cure for vampirism or zombieism or the things that make you a monster in horror movies. There are ways to do it well. I think the zombie series In the Flesh does a cure for zombieism extraordinarily well, but for the most part, I want this to be a never go back situation. Vampirism is about being seduced to the dark side. And once you go past the tipping point, there's no turning back, and that's part of the horror of it. If you make this decision and it's forever, and if you don't like it, too fucking bad. That's what Interview with the Vampire is about. I mean, to a degree.
And now that you say that, you're clarifying for me what feels so not there about this film, because Ethan Hawke doesn't get any pleasure out of being a vampire whatsoever. Like, there's no seduction. There's no does he secretly enjoy being a bad guy in his own mind? Like, it's just an imposition, and it's just a bummer.
Yeah, it's kind of like he has really bad allergies and he hates it. Like, it's just something bad that is physically happening to him.
And obviously, if this is a movie, if you don't care for Cure for the Monster type plots, which, who does? That's all this movie is. That is all this movie has as its stakes, is how did Elvis get cured? And then it turns out, spoiler alert for Daybreakers, it turns out that if a vampire drinks an ex-vampire's blood, it cures them rather than hurting the original or the ex-vampire. So you basically can pass on not vampirism the way you passed on being vampire.
Yeah.
So it already feels like it's kind of like a game mechanic more than a dramatic mechanism. And that's one of my problems with this film. It feels like an adaptation of a video game sometimes more than it feels like a movie. Like a survival horror movie, a survival horror video game set in this world works. And anything works better than this movie set in this world. But it really then does become about how do we disseminate this cure now that we found it. And that's the last third of the movie is no other stakes than that.
Yeah. And,
how do we escape with our knowledge of the cure intact, I guess I should say.
Yeah, exactly. And it's how do we do that? It's very much about... how do we preserve this world from the impending famine? And that's just not...
The famine does not feel present. They say it happens. They describe it as a thing. They describe it as the main vampire, motivation that, oh no, the blood's running out. But the subsiders are just not a present fact here. There's one scene where Ethan Hawke's looking at the tips of his ears, because that's one of the symptoms if you're becoming a subsider, is that your ears start to go pointy.
Oh, and that's actually why he crashes the car, because he's checking his ears.
Oh, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. But that's kind of it. And other than that, it feels like we have been informed that there is a food crisis in this world, but I don't see the food crisis in this world.
Yeah, because we're following all the fucking rich fat cats who
That's
have
the
the food that they need. They think that they're giving us insight into what's going on with everybody else, but one scene every 30 minutes doesn't quite cut it. And it doesn't make it feel like a pressing issue. Like
you say, it's a film about the 99% versus the 1% that is set entirely amongst the 1%.
Yeah.
Obviously that's not true. Ethan Hawke is not at the class level of Sam Neill, but he's still a well-fed white-collar vampire.
Yeah, I think Ethan Hawke is the 1% in this movie. He's just or maybe the 1.5%. He's totally comfortable. He lives in this giant house in this upper middle class future neighborhood. It did remind me a lot of The Purge and of that giant house he lives in. No, I just the world is really interesting. It does make you ask questions how does this work? What are these people doing? What's going on with this? And you just never get that because you spend the time with all these boring people having meetings in the pharmaceutical company office. They're not boring people. Sam Neill is really fun to spend time with.
He's fun to spend time with, but even he is just a bad pharma executive. He's not a bad pharma executive who is a vampire. In a couple scenes he drinks blood, but it's not he's... they don't have fun with it. There's no Dracula capes. There's no imagery. There's no bad imagery.
Yeah, if everyone was running around in capes and called like Lord Von Muffling and stuff like that, this would be such a different movie.
And it would be obviously campier, but I think a lot more fun.
Yeah.
This movie's deathly allergic to camp. This movie is terrified of camp, and it kills itself because of that.
Yeah, which is a big bummer, but good for them for trying, I guess. Is there anything else we haven't really covered for Daybreakers yet?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it just is what it is.
It's just there, and I remember like there was this big push at the time to be like the Spirig brothers are going to be geniuses, and then when their next movie came out, it's like the Spirig brothers, those new horror wunderkinds. And it's like, I don't know, this is not a movie that feels promising to me. It's not a movie that feels. Again, their next movie was Predestination, which is easily my favorite of their films, but like it's just a big old vanilla bean sandwich. That's not even fair. Vanilla bean tastes better than this movie does. It's like sweet cream ice cream that hasn't had vanilla put into it.
Ooh, okay. I can get behind that. But yes, that is exactly what
it's
Daybreakers is.
It's such a ramshackle. Again, to me, it feels like a knockoff of Underworld, which is already a knockoff of The Matrix. So it's like a copy of a copy with like some real feeble gestures towards Twilight's whole idea about vampires, and it's just not there. It's nothing. It's just a big nothing movie.
Yeah, and I think for me, I've never been much of a vampire guy. I'm way more of a zombie guy. Zombies freak me out. I don't like the disease horror of it all, but vampires really need to have a little bit, something extra for me to be super interested in what they're doing. And usually that is them being really horny and seducing each other. That's like the point of a vampire movie.
And for me, it's like creepy old decaying gothic castles and a sense of oldness and dirtiness and whatnot, and that's not here either. Because again, it's a shiny underworld nonsense.
Yeah, because it also needs to be a near future thing. It's doing a lot of things. But yeah, I mean, even though a lot of vampire movies, the people who get turned into vampires do not ultimately enjoy their fate, at least for half of the movie, the idea is, wouldn't it be cool to be a vampire? And this movie does not think it's cool to be a vampire.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Sam Neill does. He's the only one, though. And it's just kind of a waste of time. Anyway, that's Daybreakers, everybody. That'll do it for our Oscars skeletons retrieval this year. But next up on the podcast next week, you're going to be hearing an April preview episode. Tim's going to be on that one. But I did do a little bit of research ahead of time for my own personal edification about the films of April, and I cannot wait to hear all of you talk about it. But yeah, you can find that episode, more episodes of this show, and others at alternateending.com, as well as reviews, other stuff like that. And until next time, bye!